Okay, so I'm gonna show you all again how to make the one that doesn't have, require a sewing machine, since I know not everyone has a sewing machine. So I'm gonna adjust the camera so you can kind of see the counter. Okay, so what we've got here is just a bandana. Allie is asking if you have to iron on before. So I ironed this one on before I started, but like for this one, I didn't iron it on until right before I did the pleats in it. So this one's CCAI's logo. It's nice and cute. It's very pink. But I ironed it on right before I did the pleats, so I knew exactly where the middle was gonna be. So it doesn't matter when you do it, as long as you remember which side is the inside and which side is the outside. When I ironed this one on right before I did the pleats, I didn't have to worry about flipping the fabric the correct way. So it's up to you in whatever process you want. So doing the no-sew face mask, we're gonna start with a bandana. This very cool adopteen bandana. So we're gonna fold it in half. That's a little better. Okay, we're gonna fold it in half, and then we're gonna fold it into thirds. So a third of the way up, and then a third of the way down. And then we're gonna fold it a third of the way in or so, like this. Oh wait, actually I missed a step. Don't fold it in yet. We're gonna take our rubber bands. Again, these can be rubber bands or hair ties. And then we're gonna pull them in about a third of the way in. And then we're gonna fold it over, like so. Then we're gonna tuck this corner or this side into this side, being kind of gentle because it's not that tightly wrapped. And then we're gonna grab our handles here and we're gonna put it on our face. So that's super easy if you don't have access to a sewing machine, but you need to go out. Your state requires that you wear a mask when you go out. I know California just required that everyone wear a mask when they go out, and essential workers can refuse service to them if they don't have a mask on. And here in Colorado, the governor is not requiring, but strongly requesting that people wear masks when they go out. So this is great and easy if you don't have access to a sewing machine. So you have your rubber bands on the end. Again, they can be hair ties. Just put it on your face and wrap it around your ears. And it's got plenty of layers because you folded the bandana many times, so it's nice and secure, and you can wash bandanas super easy. Okay, so now I'm gonna show you how to do one with ties. This one is for my sister, so it has Gucci on it because that's what she wanted. So essentially it's gonna end up looking kind of like this one that has ties. Again, this one can fit your face a little better because you can adjust it rather than the elastic. If you had made the elastic too long, you can't make it shorter as easily. Sorry, my dog is going a little crazy. Yeah. So the tie one can fit your face and you can adjust it a little better, like so. And then you tie it in the back. And then you take the bottom ones and you can also tie. And again, you can make it tight so that it forms this kind of seal, if you will. So that, because it's supposed to kind of be tight on these sides here. So that's what that would be for. I tied this in a knot. So let's try and get this off. Okay, yeah, so we're gonna make one that you have to tie. So we're gonna flip the camera around. Okay, so right here I have my sister's mask, and what we need for this, so this is that step where everyone kind of thought it was finished, but as you can see, this one doesn't have any elastic on it. So it still has the pocket, but again, it doesn't have the elastic on it because we're going to use ties instead. So I've got 2 pieces of ribbon here. This one's already prepared, so I'm going to show you how to prepare it with this one. And both of these ribbons are 40 inches long, so you want 40 inches, potentially larger if, again, you have like a larger head, or it's just, you know, whatever your face needs. This one I did about 42 or so because I wanted to leave room for like this seam allowance on the end. Again, it really just depends. This one I'm still able to tie a bow, but if you just want to be able to tie a knot, you can make it shorter depending on your resources. It also doesn't have to be ribbon. If you have a lot of fabric, you can make it essentially the width of fabric and make it a little thicker so you can fold it over onto itself more, so you get these clean lines. So again, this one's already done before and is ready to be attached, so I'm going to show you how to prep it with this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to hem each end, and how we do that is we're going to fold it over like so, about a 1/4 inch, about a centimeter actually, I would say. And then we're going to fold it again, so then we get that clean line right there. And then we're just going to sew it along here. Nice and quick and easy, just so we have a clean end. Again, you don't have to do this. If you want to just like melt the end of your ribbon, or cut it at an angle, or cut it into a square, or not a square, you like cut a triangle out like this out of the bottom, and that will prevent it from fraying, but this just looks a little nicer. A hem is just going to be a stitch along here to hold this in place, so we're just going to go along it nice and easy. Back stitch it so it stays in place. And it looks like that. Again, I'll trim those ends, but it just holds it in place. It looks nice. If you want, you could also be using a thread that matches the ribbon. I've just been using black thread because that's what I had. Before this, I was using all white thread because, again, that's what I had. Then I ran out of the white thread. So now, using black thread. In terms of recommendations for fabric, we pretty much want to stick to cotton, and I think the CDC or someone recommended that it's coated because that just kind of gives you an extra layer of protection, but I do know you can use t-shirts. Again, the more layers, kind of the more protection you have, so if it's like a really thin fabric, it's probably not going to help you as much. That's why these ones are like 3 layers. You can see that this top layer is kind of thin because you can see the purple kind of showing through. But yeah, you kind of want to stick to cotton, and then it can also be washed pretty easily. Okay. So now we've got our 2 ends done. And you can't see it right now, but I'm just trimming the ends off of where the hem was. Yeah, again, like I said, all of the fabric I found was left over from many years ago when we had a party for my sister, and then this like old looking fabric, I was gonna make a skirt out of it. In high school, I was really into kind of like vintagey, kind of old stuff like this parchment. So I was gonna make a skirt out of it, and then it never happened, and now I'm not into that anymore. So most of the masks I've made have this print on it, but again, it doesn't really matter as much about fashion. It's just to protect us and those around us. Okay, so as you can see, this one has already been ironed. So it's folded in half, and then I ironed it so it has this fold. I can't think of what that's called, but it's folded in half. So I'm going to go over to the iron and do that real quick. I'll try my best to show you how I did it, and how to make it really easy on yourself. So give me a second while I move the camera. Okay. Welcome to the ironing board. So the iron was on like really high because we were ironing cotton, so you want to make sure you turn it down. Since this is silk ribbon, we don't want it to melt. But what we're gonna do is I'm gonna fold a little bit of this just to get it started. So I'm gonna fold it in half, just a little bit, and then we're gonna put the iron on it. And again, we don't want it to melt, so just a quick press, and now you can see that this one has that fold kind of ironed into it. Let it cool. So to make it a little easier on ourselves, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a pin and we're gonna put it through the ironing board just a little bit. I'm gonna zoom in a little more so you all can see, hopefully. Whoops. Okay, so as you can see, this pin's just barely in the ironing board, and then we're gonna slip the ribbon underneath the pin, but it's not going through the ribbon, and then we're gonna pin it back into the ironing board. So hopefully you all can see that this ribbon is still moving, so it's not pinned to this pin. This pin is just going through the ironing board to kind of create this barrier to hold it in place, for lack of a better word. And then we're gonna do it again, but a little further down. So we're gonna do it like over here. Do the same thing, put it in and try and grab just a little bit of that ironing board fabric, like that. And then we're gonna go over the ribbon completely so it doesn't catch on that ribbon, and then pin it back into the board. Again, our ribbon should be able to move freely. And then what we're gonna do is set the iron in this middle part so that we can just pull the ribbon through. And you can see on this side, I'm trying to guide it because it's not gonna perfectly line up if I just pull it. So I'm gonna try and guide the ribbon, but we're gonna put the iron right here in the middle and then just slowly pull it through. You can go back and forth just to make sure it's creasing our ribbon. And keep going all the way until we get to the end. Okay, so for those of you just joining, I am making a crease in the ribbon so that we can make it, we can attach it to the mask for a tie. And what I'm doing is I have a nice little setup here where the ribbon is pinned down, but it's not being pinned through, so it can move freely. So I've got these pins here that are going through the ironing board, but they're not pinning the ribbon, they're just holding it in place. And then what we're doing is we're gonna place the iron right in between our two pins so that we can crease it and it can kind of hold it in place, so you don't have to keep like folding it and moving it as we go along. I'm just moving it back and forth just to make sure it gets creased. And it's looking pretty good. So I can pull my pins out. And then just iron the end here since that didn't get pulled through the iron. Again, we want to make sure that we adjust our iron because it was on cotton to iron our mask, because that's made out of cotton and we want to make sure it gets ironed. But this ribbon is silk, so that's got a little lower heat tolerance, so we don't want it to melt, so I have turned it down. And that looks good, so I'm gonna move the camera back to the table. Give me 1 second. Oop, that's still me. Okay, so now we're back, and now we have our 2 ribbons, and they are all creased. So what we're gonna do is find the middle. You can either iron another crease right in here to find the middle, or you can just push real hard, and then we still kind of get a crease. So we'll do that on both of these, so we have the middle just so it's lined up and we have the same amount of ribbon on each side. Again, just gonna push really hard. Hi, Olivia. Yes, for anyone who's wondering what my shirt is, it's Gudetama, who's known as like a lazy egg. He's got a little balloon. He's nice and cute. Okay, so now we've creased our 2 ribbons to find the middle, and now I'm gonna crease this mask. Just kind of push really hard right in the middle on each end, just so we can line up those 2 middles. Like so. So you can see we know where our middle is. And then I'm gonna take one of my ribbons. We'll start with the top here. Gonna line up where those 2 creases are. So you can see it's this crease and then this crease. It's not this line, that is from just when the fabric was folded up. So it's this line, which we just creased. So we're gonna open up our ribbon here and put this into it. It's a little tricky because this ribbon is so small. I'm gonna lay it down, and now I'm gonna grab my pins and pin this in place. Again, you can use pins, or if you have clips, that works really well too. If you don't have a sewing machine, you could also hot glue this entire thing. I would just make sure that your elastic is really secure. You might want to sew that by hand if you don't have a sewing machine, but really this whole thing could be done with hot glue or like the liquid seams or whatever. I don't really recommend that, especially liquid seams. They never really seem to actually work that well. So sewing is your best option, but if you don't have access again to a sewing machine, you can either do that tutorial I showed earlier, or you can, I would recommend hot glue over like the liquid seams. You could even use super glue. It doesn't work that great on fabric because it kind of seeps through and then sticks to the thing on the other side, but it is an option if you need. Okay, so now our top ribbon is pinned in place, and now we're just gonna go ahead and sew the entire thing. So we're even gonna sew right here and sew all along it. And then when we get to this part, we're gonna slowly pull the pins out because we don't want our pins going through the sewing machine, or else it'll bend your needle, which happened to this needle here. You can see it has a slight curve to it, and so I can't use it anymore. So we don't want our needle to hit the pins, or else it'll bend and you can't use it. Okay, so now we are gonna go in first with this end of the ribbon, and we're just gonna start stitching along to close it up. I know someone asked other things that I was doing to, I guess, practice self-care. I talked that I was gardening a lot because I love plants. I love just like sitting and admiring my plants even. Just taking time to like watch them, even though they're not growing, but you know, take time to myself, chill out, not be on my phone, and like sit with my plants. It sounds weird, but for me it's very relaxing. Ooh. Might have gotten a little caught. Something I'm also doing for self-care, I'm making sure to keep up on top of my skin routine. I know it's easy if you're like, oh, I'm not going out, I'm not gonna like, you know, wash my face or whatever it is, but it's still important to make sure you're taking care of that. So yeah, washing my face. I've been meaning to do a face mask. You know, just those simple things that can kind of slip away easily when you're at home all the time and you're not interacting with others, but just remembering to take care of those easy things. One thing I haven't been doing as great is going to bed at my usual time that I normally would because it's hard when you're at home. You're like, oh, I can stay up till 2 a.m. and it's easy, but then when I have to get up at like 7 the next day for work, it's a little harder. Let's see, got a lot of questions. I have named most of my plants. I went through all my cacti's names earlier. Not all of them have names. All of the herbs that I recently started growing. So I started growing like spinach, cilantro, basil, oregano. I'm trying to grow mint, but it won't grow for some reason. The seeds just don't want to germinate. But, I haven't named any of those. I bought some more plants recently too, and I haven't named any of them yet. So we're getting there. I don't have a very large backyard. Our plot of grass is about the size of like a kiddie pool. But we do have quite a bit of landscaping. Okay, so now we're getting close to this pin. So I'm gonna slowly kind of start taking this pin out and making sure this is lined up how I want it to, and I want to make sure it's going through the back too. Since we can't see that, we want to make sure we catch this ribbon on the back, so I might scoot in the seam even a little more just to make sure we catch this back part too. But yeah, I don't have a very large backyard. We have a lot of pots, so that's what most of my plants stay in, are pots. I have some really big pots that can hold like really big tomato and pepper plants. Okay, we're back. So sorry. I don't know why it just ended. I don't know if there's a limit to lives. Okay, so we're back. For those of you just joining, we're adding ties onto this mask. We're gonna finish this up soon, hopefully. But yeah, we're just adding ties right now on this mask. And I was talking about plants in my garden. We don't have a very big garden, so most of them are contained to pots. I'm gonna pull this pin out and just keep going. I need to adjust my seam because I'm going a little high right now, but that's okay. As long as it's attached, that's really all that matters. Welcome back, everyone. So sorry. I don't know why the live ended. I don't know if there's like an hour limit to lives, since this was right about an hour. But it's good to know for the future if there is a limit. Okay, so I just pulled out the last pin, and I'm just gonna hold it in place as I go through the sewing machine, because I really want to make sure it stays where it needs to be. Okay, and then I'm just gonna check over here, make sure it went all the way through, and it did. It's okay that there's a little extra. It's not a big deal. Again, if you want to use a thread that matches, that's totally fine. I'm just using black for everything, so that's why this is black. And we're gonna finish up and go all the way down. It may not seem like it's moving, but I promise that it is. We're getting to the end now. Okay, now we're just gonna back stitch. Okay, so now our first tie is attached to the mask and we're gonna trim our ends. Oops. I know before we got cut off, someone asked about my skincare routine. So I use the same cleanser morning and night. It's just I think it's the Cetaphil daily cleanser. It's nice and gentle. Okay, so you can see. Our first one is attached. It's all the way down. Let me trim these ends. And then we're gonna do the same for the bottom. I can show you, or we can finish the video, because after this I was going to add the pleats. But that's the essential idea of the one with the ties. So eventually it would end up like this one. This one you can't see the stitches as much because I used white. But it's the same thing. It goes all the way down, and then same on the bottom. So you're just going to line it up with those creases and then sew from one end all the way through the mask and then all the way to the end. And then you've got ties that now fit your face just a little bit easier than maybe the elastic. And let me see if anyone else is on that did not see the original no-sew mask. Again, I was saying that you can do all of these with the glue gun if you're desperate. I wouldn't recommend it because it can kind of pull off easy, and if you're washing it in a washing machine, again, these are all cotton, so you can wash it and it should be pretty good. That's why we stitched it multiple times back and forth around the elastic and on the pleats, so that if you wash it, it doesn't come undone. So you can wash it. That's why we just stitch over it multiple times, and that's why, again, on these pockets we reinforced them. So they can be washed, and if you're going to do hot glue, it may come apart a lot easier. But if you're desperate and you're not going to be wearing it a whole lot, then you can do hot glue or liquid seams. But again, I wouldn't recommend that. But something else you can do is this one that's made out of a bandana that just has rubber bands, no sewing, no tying or anything. And that is just a bandana folded in half and then folded into thirds. So we'll show it one more time real quick. Let's fold it in half like this, fold it into thirds. Oh my gosh, my cat, oh my gosh, okay, sorry, my cat is lying on the ironing board and the iron is still on, so I'm gonna go Okay, thank you, Jasmine, who pointed out my cat, because the iron was still on and he was lying right next to it. I think he's fine, he didn't touch it, but he just likes going in places where he probably shouldn't be. Okay, so we've got it folded in half and then it's folded into thirds. And so now we are going to slip our rubber bands on it, about a third of the way down. This rubber band just broke. Okay, rubber band's a third of the way down. Fold it inward and tuck it in. And then put it on your face. Pretty easy. So there's the bandana one. This is the one, oh, this is the one we made. This is the one with the pleats on the side and the elastic. Again, same thing. and then the one with the ties. So I tied a knot in it, I can't get it undone. Oh, there we go. Okay, one with the ties, same thing, over the nose and mouth, and then you just tie it around the back. Like so. So again, like I said, elastic is kind of hard to come by right now, so if you have ribbon that is 40 inches long, you can, or fabric even, you can use this, or again, this one is super easy. Most people have at least a square of some sort of cloth that is lying around, and hopefully you have some rubber bands too, or hair ties or whatever to make this kind of mask. So lots of different options. Thank you all so much for joining. We're gonna post this and record this and post this to our Facebook, potentially Instagram pages if you want to come back and reference it to learn how to make these masks. I hope you all are staying very safe and healthy. Tune in next week. We've got Ari making bread on Tuesday and Chloe doing makeup on Thursday. So you'll see me again. And then many, many more live streams to come. Also later this month, I'll be doing a weighted blanket. So some more sewing, but really exciting stuff. I hope you all enjoyed. If you have any other questions, if you're looking to like buy masks, or you have any questions for me, you're more than welcome to message me. My Instagram is TLC_tenderlovingclaire. So feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions about these masks or anything else. I hope you all are staying safe and healthy and have a great rest of your day. Bye.